So today we're going to be talking about independence, that basic fundamental principle that underpins everything that you do. So important that it's in our name, isn't it? Independent advocacy. And one of the biggest threats to independence that we're going to look at now is something called isomorphism. Now, isomorphism is something that describes when you have a dominant culture that can take over another culture. So it kind of sucks it up and consumes it. And if you think about the advocacy service working in institutions and institutional settings, there's a very, very real risk that isomorphism can happen and that you become taken over and sucked into the dominant culture that is the care home or the mental health hospital or the general hospital or the culture of the local authority. So you've got to be very, very careful against guarding against isomorphism. There are three things that I think you really need to think about when you're looking at isomorphism. The first thing is about who do you align yourself with. So there's essentially the dominant culture, which is begging you, it's kind of sucking you in. It's like saying, hey, come over here and be with us. And at every moment, the dominant culture is asking and inviting you to kind of come over and be with them. And you can see that playing out. So, for instance, when you feel that you can understand the professionals, that you might feel aligned with them, you might feel professional yourself so that you've got like a courtesy. You might be very readily to accept what professionals are explaining. But in advocacy, of course, we shouldn't be aligning ourselves with professionals. We shouldn't be aligning ourselves with institutions. The very simple premise of advocacy is that we align ourselves with our partner. And it doesn't matter, does it, what our partner is saying or wants, but we are on their side. We have to align ourselves with our partner. Now, this can be challenged in all kinds of places. And a few months ago, a friend of mine was held under the Mental Health Act, and he called me up because he wanted an advocate. And I got him the local advocacy service. And he called me back and he was really upset because he said that the advocate had said to him, don't worry, just take your medication and do as the staff say. So just think about that for a second. An advocate saying to somebody, take your medication and do as the staff say. Now, that advocate, I don't think is a bad advocate. I don't think they're a bad person, but they got sucked in to the dominant culture. They got sucked in and they become aligned with the professionals. There's no way an advocate should be saying that to an individual. Now, there's no way an advocate should be saying the opposite either, which is don't take your medication and don't do as the staff say. It's almost like we shouldn't be thinking about that. What we need to be doing is if we come from the relationship at the perspective of our partner, then we're guarding against isomorphism. We're not aligning ourselves with the staff. It's almost like the staff are over there saying what they need to say, and it's up to the staff to do their job and to engage with your partner. And then here, we're walking with our partner, aren't we? And end up. Second thing is about being visibly independent. Now, you might think that this is kind of an easy one to get. Don't have an NHS email address. Don't wear uniforms that connect you with the institution that you're working within. But it can kind of creep in. And yes, there's things that you can visibly do, so like lanyards, for instance. Don't have a lanyard that's got the logo of the institution, because that's given a very, very subliminal cue to people about who you are there to represent. Pens, paperwork should not have anything to do with the institution, because if it does, it gives that visible cue, that unconscious message, that filter that you're part of that institution, and you have to be apart from it. You have to be a part in order to challenge that and to ask the questions that you need to be asking. The problem with these cues is that they not only give indicators that you're not independent, but they also start to affect culture. For instance, when you sign up to get an email address, it's not just the email. You're signing up that you are accepting all of the processes and policies and protocols that go with being part of that institution. And the culture is the last thing I'm going to talk about in this quick session. Culture is everything. And culture, remember, is what happens when nobody's watching. Isomorphic culture is when your culture is mirroring and being aligned with that institution that you're meant to be independent from. And the metaphor we're going to give you today is that of Pac-Man. So everyone knows Pac-Man running around, the little world, eating all the food, and then the ghosts come to chase them. Imagine you're Pac-Man, and the dominant culture are the ghosts. And of course, it's a great metaphor because ghosts are a bit ethereal. You don't really know that they're there, but them being there can push you in certain directions. It will influence choices that you make. It will make you choose to go down a particular path or corridor. You cannot allow yourself to be influenced by the ghosts. What you need to do, of course, is eat the super pill so you can turn around and go and eat the ghost and change the dominant culture so that it becomes more person-centered and more protective of human rights. And the reason for this, of course, is because in a lot of institutional settings, you start to get closed cultures. And this describes where abnormal culture and abnormal practice suddenly becomes normalized. So the way people are spoken to, the way services are delivered, things that shouldn't happen start to become routine. And then they start to become normal. And the danger is if you're being affected by isomorphism, if you're being sucked in, you won't see that. Or if you do see it, you start to justify it. You start to say, oh, that's the way it's being done. Or, well, I understand why they're doing it like that. Instead of taking a step back and asking questions to poke and push and say, no, that's not right. Or can we do that a different way? So think about isomorphism in your teens and guard against it. And that way we can truly be independent and be aligned with our partner. Thanks.